Call the meeting of the Willits City Council to order for May 27th. Can we all rise and join Ron in the pledge?
Please join me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, let's find out who's here.
Okay. Councilmember Stransky?
Yes.
Strong?
Yes.
Medical?
Yes.
Ornstein? Mayor Burton?
Yes. First item is public communications. This is an opportunity, anybody in the community that would like to address the city council on issues that are not on the agenda. No action will be taken. Try and limit your comments to 3 or 4 minutes. Do we have anybody who wanted to address the council on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we will move to the matters at hand. First off, we do need to amend our agenda to include a letter that was in the packet, but failed to get. It's just to go on the consent calendar. It's a grant letter of support to RCHDC. So I'd look for someone to.
Second it.
A motion and a second. Does anybody have any objections to that? Comments? Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Stransky?
Yes.
Strong?
Yes.
Medical?
Yes.
Ornstein?
Yep.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. The next thing, slightly out of order, for those that are here for this item, if there is anyone, I intend to pull it again this week. It's a discussion, possible approval of a franchise agreement with our franchise hauler, Solid Waste of Willits. We're still working on final language for the agreement between the hauler and the composting facility, secondary supplier to the agreement, which we hope to work out in the very near future. So, yes.
I have a question. So are we running up against a time sensitivity as far as getting this completed? Is there any sort of extension that needs to be done?
I think that the contract does not, help me out here,
November 1st is the proposed starting date.
Starting date, so we do have some time. I don't believe we're gonna hit an impasse with this, but I believe if we needed to extend the contract short-term for some reason, we have, I'm sure, the ability to do that. But I think it was just a process. We would have got it done this time, but the 3-day weekend, people on holidays, and the meetings just did not take place. So I think we're confident that will happen. But does anybody else have anything on this? We will bring it up. Okay, so that, I just want the people here to sit through the rate hearing on the other things unless they wish to. But now we will go back, and this is an annual obligation the city must perform when we, prior to the inauguration of the new budget for the upcoming year, which we spent all day on yesterday. But on certain rates, it's a discussion and possible adoption of a resolution approving changes to certain fees and charges affecting at the beginning of the new fiscal year, which is July 1st, runs July 1st through June 30th of 16. So we're setting rates for all the different charges that apply to city permits, water fees, sewer fees. Well, Adrian, why don't you introduce? I think this is probably.
Sure.
You can introduce this, and there's a limited, very limited number of changes being proposed this year. But.
So as it's laid out in the agenda summary that Susie prepared, in the general fund as well as in the sewer fund and water fund, we're proposing a credit card convenience fee for in the amount of $3.95 per transaction. And I'd like to have Susie come up and expound on that. In police services, increasing the copies of photos. This is people go in and I presume request photos of accidents or whatever. From $1 to $10 for over-the-counter, and if it's mailed, $1 to $11. Vehicle storage fee at the Willits Police Department from $10 to $25. Clearance letter from $5 to $10, and establishment of an administration fee for the return of repossessed vehicles in the amount of $15, and that's a state pass-through. In addition to the credit card convenience fee in the general fund, sewer fund, and water fund, we would also be proposing a different pricing structure for the Willits Center for the Arts. It doesn't actually change the current rental fees, but it does some cleanup with that. It was pretty convoluted. And all right, what's this?
Susie just handed
Okay.
this out.
So, very few changes. One of the things that's in here, of course, are the fees for the pool that I think we're going to be talking more about in a few minutes. So Susie, you want to walk us through the credit card convenience fee?
Sure. When I first did the credit card transaction fees, I kind of did it and said, this is how many transactions we've had year to date, and this is how much the fees have been, and to cover that, $3.95 looks like it would cover it. But since then, when I went back and redid it, we've had $536,000 worth of credit card transactions from July till April, through April. And that's 2,331 transactions. And our merchant accounts fees have been $15,016, which is more like $6.44 a transaction. That's not realistic. So I was trying to find a way to get it to be easier for the girls when they're answering the phone, and thinking that maybe we might want to do something like up to $50 is a $1.50 convenience fee. If it's between $51 and $100, then it's $3. And that is 3% of the highest number, obviously.
Right.
And then once we get to over $200, at that point, they would have to stop and calculate whatever the 3% is and charge that. I don't know another way to get the transaction. I mean, they just keep growing and growing and growing, and people are using more and more credit cards, debit cards, and and they're calling in, and the cost of calling in and not actually having the card swiped is even higher than if they were to come in. We're trying to be as customer friendly as possible and be able to have them call in and pay their. And we love that they're calling in and paying it, and that it's timely. So I don't want to complain about that, but there has to be some way that we can recoup these fees.
Could you have her explain why this fee is that it costs the merchant or whoever it is a percentage of the money off of the bill, and whenever you charge something on with your credit card, the person that you bought it from has to discount their fee that they charge for it, like 3 or 4%. And that's why that we're doing that, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
So just to clarify, if somebody had a $50 water bill and they came in and paid cash, they'd be paying $50 or a check. But if they used a credit card or debit card, they'd actually be paying
$51.50.
But we wouldn't get the $50.
Well, we would only be getting right now 47.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
We would be charging their credit card $51.50.
850.
Actually,
Did I say it right?
I mean, if you really wanted to get technical about it, you'd have to charge more than $51.50, because you're gonna get charged 3% now on the $51.50, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going there. But
Well, hopefully this will also, be a trial measure, and we'll see how this goes. And if we find next year that still fees are outpacing or something like that, then we might have to look at a different
I don't-
merchant carrier, possibly. But I think that this looks fine.
And also just to clarify, and because maybe you mentioned already, most water bills are going to be, in the 30, 60 range, but We also have, we receive a lot of TOT payments, which accounts for the larger transactions.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is, this is something that's, it used to be absorbed in the good old days before inflations and things. It used to be absorbed by the merchants, and we find more and more that the merchants are passing it on. I mean, just look at the gas stations in town, and they're all applying. So, you know, I don't see this as being objectionable for anybody, and I thank you for doing this so quickly.
I do have some questions on some of the other fees.
Okay, well, I think I think everyone understands this aspect of it, and when it gets time to make a motion on the fees, I would be looking for a motion that would incorporate this language into the use of credit and debit cards on city purchases. But we'll get back there probably soon. So on the rest of, first of all, just in the formality, do I need to open the public hearing now or not until I start taking comments from the public? 6 of 1, half a dozen of the other.
I think you can.
I'll
do it
open
now.
we'll just formally open the public hearing. I'm gonna take comments from the dais and then I'll take comments from the community. Yes.
So I had, on the police services fees, the photos especially, Jerry, this is a question for you. Are these, it seems like a pretty substantial jump, so were we not charging enough for them before, or?
No, we weren't really, covering our costs a lot.
Jerry, do you mind coming up? Just so we get you plenty
I
of
just want,
FaceTime
from
on
1
the
to 10
camera.
bucks is a big leap, so I just want
And we were trying to get them in line with what other places are charging, and, you know, it's one thing to copy a CD, but sometimes it's time consuming to find the information and put it together in a format. So some folks think it's just a matter of going down to, in the old days, we'd go down to Rexall and say, make us 20 copies, and, you know, it was just a trip down there and took the negatives in. It doesn't work that way, so we have to pull them off a computer, either put them on a disc or print them up, depending on what the individuals want.
Okay. So we weren't charging enough before?
No.
Okay, that makes sense.
We were charging, but not recouping our costs, so.
What vehicles do we store?
On occasion, there've been times when we store a vehicle, and it just gives us a mechanism to kind of encourage folks to come get their car if we bring it here. So if somebody was arrested and the vehicle was being processed for evidence, I can think of one where there was a child sex abuse situation where we brought the vehicle back to process, and I'm not sure we charge storage in that case, but it is an incentive to have folks come get their car when we tell them come get their car.
Okay. But the more standard practice,
Is we
if the
call
vehicle
it-
is not part of an investigation,
Then it gets towed and
Towed
stored
to
by
a-
a tow company, and
Yeah.
it sits there, and they charge the storage. So we don't really have the room, nor do we, it's something we
really
want
want
to
to
get
be
into
in the
business.
business. Yeah.
But it
Okay.
does give us a tool.
Thank you.
And then my other question is on page 2, and this might be a Susie question. There wasn't a change on this, but we have a sidewalk dining permit, and it says a capacity of less than blank. Is that something that we're needing to do, to figure out what that capacity is?
Yeah, I'll find that out.
Okay. I mean, it's not exactly a fee, it'll just be in our documents.
Where is that? I missed
On
it.
page 2, it's not the first, it's sort of like the second paragraph, sidewalk dining permit. And this will be right above administrative review fees, the line above that,
Oh, yeah.
sidewalk dining permit. So this is for like, it's time where they have, they have outdoor seating. There's an annual permit for that.
And the pizza place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But presumably that's,
So
if it's less than like,
We'll track that down.
20 seats or something. Figure it out. Okay, and then the only other things I have are on the pool, so I'll wait for
Before you
that.
go open that, maybe there should be a corollary. If you say less than blank, there should also be something more than, a
Or
different
maybe
fee
it needs
perhaps?
to just come out.
I'm sorry?
Maybe it just needs to come
Yeah.
out if we're just talking about sidewalk seating. And how much seating can you have in front of your sidewalk?
That's not
And
going to be
even if-
dictated by the fee, that's going to be dictated by,
Yeah,
Okay.
and even if you have one people out there, it's sidewalk dining.
In other words, capacity is less than blank, that is the upper capacity that can be permitted, that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And then my other questions are on, or my other comments are on the pool. I gave that some thought, but I can wait till we're done with the other
Well,
ones.
does anybody have any questions prior to the pool?
Yes,
Okay.
I have a few. Some of these are pretty. One question was on page 4, we provide for appeal to the planning commission and appeal to the city council, and in this case, we are both. So should that just be only one? They wouldn't first appeal to us as planning commission and then appeal again to us as city council, wouldn't make any sense, would it?
That might be efficient how we do it, though.
Maybe Jim knows.
What page is that?
Well, page 4, about midway, right above copies of community development documents.
I think you're probably right. In the event someday that it's a placeholder. I'm not sure it's necessary to be there, nor is it necessary to take it out.
As long as it's understood, they aren't going to have to do 2 appeals.
They're
just
not
to
gonna
get-
pay
Well, they made application to the planning commission and they got turned down, right? So now they want to appeal the decision of the planning commission. They wouldn't take it back to the planning commission, they'd be taking it to the city council.
Right.
For us, it's just, we used to have a separate planning commission, and we have had in the past. And if we choose to put a planning commission in place, we could do that.
Okay, but it's understood that there would just be one appeal.
It's
the way things
understood.
are right now, okay. Okay, another, sorry, I have a couple things. One, a question on page 7. Well, this has to do with the pool, but then on the airport fund, the second item is commercial hangar rent per month is $511.32, and then land lease hangar pads per year. So that says to me that a pad is 1/12 the value of a hangar rent.
Is that the tie down? Is that what it is?
No, that's the
It's
hanger
not-
pad.
Yeah, so
Built on hanger.
is that a reasonable difference? It seems like a huge differential there.
Well, they have to build their hangar. They have to, it's an expense that the hangar pad lessee still has to build a hangar on top of the pad. So they will have an expense. So basically, it's just it's a land lease. I guess if you want to look at it another way, you can take the tie down, per month fee, for example, and multiply the tie down by, I don't know, 5, 6, 10, something like that, which would be the size of the hangar pad.
Well, that,
Well,
the
if you wish to construct your own hangar at the airport,
that's what-
then you would need to come make a land lease with the city for your hangar.
Okay,
And if you were to lease a commercial hangar from the city already built,
yeah,
so if the city were to build a commercial hangar
right.
and lease it to your airplane, you would pay,
Is this consistent with what our region is?
112.
you'd be paying them. that-
Okay,
that
well,
way.
I am not familiar.
That's the way I read
What
it.
the going rates are and whether that makes sense.
Well, we
But I
have-
just thought
we
it was-
have-
Because of per month and per year was such a big, the same number, but.
Well, in one sense, you're getting a building, in the
Yeah.
other sense, you're getting a pile of
Okay.
thistles that you have to then
If
convert to.
that seems reasonable to other members who are more familiar with it, I'm okay.
Well,
with
we
it.
have, all I can say really is, not this year necessarily, but periodically, we do some comparability analysis on our hangar and tie-down rates and stuff like that, so they may not have been vetted this year, I don't know, but they have. When we propose to change them, then we usually do, that's based on having done some comparability stuff.
Well,
We
Okay.
did that about three or 4 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and I,
Oh, absolutely, yes, yes.
and our rates were pretty low, but not completely off the low end, I guess. I think I remember that coming before.
What I recall is that the council adopted an alternative rate rather than what was proposed, so it was lesser than what was being proposed.
Oh,
I think we hit something in the middle.
okay, well, okay, I can have to look into that some other year, I guess. I also wondered on page 8, again, without knowing the nuts and bolts of how loads come in for septage and leachate and so forth, those rates seemed sort of off the cuff, kind of low when you're talking about 12 cents a gallon. Just the processing of having someone come in and so forth, it seemed like maybe those rates are on the low end.
I believe a study is being done right now to
Okay.
look at that, so pending the findings of that.
Yeah, that's right.
It would,
Okay.
We expect to have that by the end of the year, it'll be before the end of the fiscal year, right, Ron?
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. One other question is on page 11, the temporary construction meter rate for residential, or for residential, 5/8 inch meter is 2205, but a permanent meter is 2646 now. And I'm wondering if we neglected to change that consistent with, I mean, if it's a 5/8 inch meter for the construction period, why isn't it the same as the current residential rate? Same thing for the non-residential, the new rate now is 720, but on the temporary one, it's only $6.
You're right, those were missed.
Okay.
Should just be changed.
All right. And then on that same page, one other, so those are changes. On that same page, right above water service connection fee, there's a reprogram charge for non-payment per gallon, and it says 0. So either it shouldn't even be in there, or we should charge something.
It's something that we haven't been charging, but we might want to start again someday. We left it in there for that reason. It's if you have your water turned off, we don't charge you to reconnect it at this time.
Mhm. Well, this isn't
Well,
for
we
residential.
do up above.
Yeah, for residential.
These are under truck fill station. It's not, this isn't,
Oh, okay.
this is not,
Right. It seems like that would be if a truck fills up and didn't pay. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it certainly, there should be.
well, I think what it means is that
A surcharge.
if I got this right, what we used to have, what we have at that commercial truck fill station is that you get a PIN number or a card, a swipe card or something, so that when you go to load water, you punch in, say, your PIN number. And so what this is, what she's saying they don't charge for, if you got a load of water, then you owed the city $300 and you were late in paying it, they would simply go, and invalidate your PIN number, so when you went to use it the next time, you simply couldn't get any water until you paid your $300. What she's saying is that once you paid your $300, they wouldn't charge you another fee to go give you another PIN number.
Okay.
Okay, that's what that reprogrammed charge is that they did not charge for those people that had their access cut off for non-payment. We're not running that, we're not even running that facility. We haven't used it since the drought started. So, but that's, that's what that refers to, I believe.
It's a per gallon.
Well, it is, but, it's so, if you get, the idea is that if you got 3,000 gallons, or 10,000, you know, then you could charge for that reprogramming at some per gallon rate.
So are we all comfortable with just not having it? just
Well, we're
having
not,
that
we're not.
A placeholder since we're not using it anyway.
Yeah, I think we need to leave it in
Okay,
place so
all
that.
right, those were, other than pool things, those were.
Is there a ration, or what is the rationale for the, taking the temporary meter, construction meters to $1,000 deposit as opposed to $100?
The rationale was that the meter is worth $1,000, and if you're giving somebody a meter and saying, here, just give me a $100 deposit, and then they take off with the meter, then you're out the meter.
Does that happen?
Does that happen?
I don't think it has happened.
Okay. But that $1,000 gets credit when they convert
They get
that to
it back as soon as they get the
convert to it, so it's just a,
deposit.
We're less inclined to bring them back also. And I'm not saying keep them, but they're not in a hurry to bring them back. Keep them until the next project.
With $100, yeah.
When it's available.
so is a temporary meter a different meter than the permanent meter? So it's not when they build a house and that's a separate.
These are on the fire hydrants.
Right.
In fact, they have it right now at the construction site of the medical office building, I've noticed.
Oh, it's those meters. It's not the 5/8 meter that would go while you were building your house if you needed processed water for, they'd install the real meter then.
Right.
Okay, got it.
But on that subject, I'm just kind of curious, how does that work? I mean, I've seen the meters on the hydrant, and I've seen it connected to the tanker truck. How does the city find out how much water has been used, and how is that handled?
I'll double check this, but I believe Clarence reads the meter when he goes around and reads.
Okay, so it stays on the hydrant as long as they're working on the site?
Yes.
Okay, because it seems, okay, I thought they took it off and kept it with the truck, in case it might be stolen. That's just my impression. Whenever I drive by and I see it, I usually see it on the hydrant when the truck is connected to it, but I don't recall seeing it on the hydrant when the truck is not connected to it.
Does it make a difference?
Well, it means that it's not staying with the hydrant, it's staying with the truck, it's going somewhere. And I guess it goes back to my question is, how do you guys get a hold of it and how do you bill it?
Well, when they check it out, it's got a reading, and when they get it
Okay.
back, it's got a reading.
Okay.
I would think they do it based on that.
That's exactly what they do.
That makes
It's
sense.
read just like a regular meter. When you check it out, so to speak, it starts with one number. When it's brought back,
Okay,
it has the ending number, and that's what we bill them for.
duh, good, thank you.
Okay, anybody want to jump into swimming pool? Or are they comfortable with everything else for now?
I will. For those of you who weren't at the budget discussion yesterday, we had a fairly lengthy discussion about the swimming pool and the swimming pool's viability. And I believe, is it $44,000 in the red about, or in that ballpark?
45.
Of a subsidy that the city does, and the city has always done as a service to the public, similar to a park, but this is a sizable expense. And so a proposal that was on the table last year during budget time for the same issue was to close the pool entirely. And one of the things that, I don't think any of us want to close the pool, I'll put it that way. And one of the things that was brought up was the possibility of raising the fees somewhat drastically to really show the community that this is not something that we're going to be able to just sustain going forward. And so if we raise the fees, we would reduce the subsidy is the idea. And in order to not be in the red, we would basically have to triple the fees, which I don't think any of us were interested in doing either. And there is an understanding that by raising the fees, certainly some people are going to choose not to go anymore if it's not affordable for them. But we have to do something because we can't continue in this method. And so possibly a benefit to this might be that someone in the community, either working on a recreation district or in partnership with a hospital, might be able to get another pool going, you know, something like that. But this way we would be able to keep our lifeguard staff on, keep the pool open, and see where we were a year from now to see, you know, how that went. So when I looked at the fees, I thought that something that I could support would be a doubling of fees. So by and large, it's a doubling. So on adults, for example, per day, instead of $4 a day, it would be $8 a day. The swim pass, I think you still would like to have a benefit for a pass. So I think I added, what, 10%, or I reduced 10%, so I was thinking like 144 or something. We could talk about that. Pretty much doubling for everything except for the swimming lessons. I thought, I mean, I want to encourage kids to be able to learn how to swim in an affordable way. So I was thinking that swimming lessons could be a $5 increase across the board.
So that'd be $10 instead of $5?
It would be
30 instead of 20.
right. So swimming lessons for the first child, it's $50, and so it would be $55. I mean, it's not significant,
that's
but it's just a
preschool.
slight. And so that would be an opening recommendation.
I don't quite understand, you double, my deal here, open swim pass, 20, gets 20 swims, is now $70. If you, and you wanted to more than double it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to more than double it. I meant to,
140.
I meant to double it and then have a benefit to getting basically it's a bulk pass, right?
Well, there still would be, if it just doubled, what, the 140.
Oh, right, then it is still, right, because it's
Yeah.
already, okay,
Already.
yes, I take that back. So doubling of everything except for the swim lessons.
And then just adding 5 for each of
$5
those,
for each one.
down to the preschool, same thing,
Yeah.
30, and then
$30
25,
for your preschooler.
and 25 for each additional, or family.
I think the other thing that bears mentioning, and I don't know, not to say it in the most positive light, is that our understanding is, at this point, is that water aerobics is not planning on using the pool this year. And that was a good, you know, it was 25% of what the pool, now that might be a slight exaggeration, maybe 20% of the pool fees that came from water aerobics. They have apparently found another, and you know, they want to do it year-round, and I understand all that, so there's a logic to it that I'm sure makes sense, but it is a hit to the community pool to lose the water aerobics, the seasonal water aerobics. Yeah, ma'am.
A friend of mine happens to be part of, a participant in that, and she said that she thought that the private pool that they had been using is not going to be big enough to handle the volume of people that want to do it, at least during the summer anyway, so they may be coming back.
That'd be great. I mean,
But that was just hearsay, so I
we'd
don't
love to have them,
know
but
for sure.
but
Maybe
we're.
they could, yeah, maybe we could reach out and see if they would want to do us for the summer and then the private pool and the.
Yeah. She didn't like the idea of doubling the rates, however. So,
I'm sure that's the case, but that would, where's aerobics?
I know.
Okay, Holly, will you go over the swimming lessons? First child is how much? You wanna
First
raise-
child is 50, it was 50, it'll now be 55.
Okay,
Second child was 45, it'll now be 50.
it'll be what?
50.
It's just
add-
$5.
Okay.
Third plus is now going to be 45. A preschool group rate is now going to be $30. And each additional child, $25. And I don't think any of us relish this idea. I mean, I would love to continue to subsidize this particular service, but it's also not a new facility. You know, there's continual increasing costs of maintaining it. And we do partner with the school district in doing this, and I'm sure they're having similar challenges. And I do believe that Otters is still going, you know, which is a volunteer group that utilizes this, and they're not impacted by this schedule, I don't believe.
Anybody else have any comments on these fees? Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a question that the water aerobics adult per lesson is more, it is already more, and if we double it, it'll be even more, than paying for just the day rate. Whereas the 20 swim pass underwater aerobics is considerably less than what it is. So I'm wondering if we don't want to just make that basically the same as the open swim rates.
Do we supply the water aerobics instructor?
The aerobics instructor has been a volunteer instructor, and that's been part of the reason why that particular program has paid for itself and been a benefit to the city. If we had to pay them, obviously that would change.
But for an adult to go to the water aerobics, you're not paying for the instructor because that's a volunteer. Why isn't it the same as going to swim? Why is it more?
Well, I think that part of it is that when you do, if you've been to the pool, the water aerobics takes a specific, it takes an area of the pool and no one else can use it.
Yeah.
You're not, little Johnny can't
swim in that.
Can't swim in that area when you're doing water. It's a dedicated use of the pool. You can't swim laps when water aerobics is going on because it takes all the shallow end of the pool.
But
So,
they try
I
to
think
schedule these things
Well,
so that
that's just-
there's
it's-
times for open
But I
swimming.
think
mean,
that's the rationale, is
Okay,
that it's,
you
is that
know,
it's using that space. And
don't vote for it.
Or, I mean, I think we want to try to keep our eye on the goal of trying a higher rate, but if you had another rate that you think would be more reasonable that was a bit more than the regular swim.
Well, I would make it the same as, so if we're doubling the adult per day to $8, make the adult per lesson for water aerobics $8, and the water, and the 20 swim pass, $140, like we're doing with the other one.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I support that. Well, and I also, the other thought that I have behind it is that I believe that, maybe Shauna Jevons, when she was with us, or I remember there being a time when this was reevaluated by the lifeguard and pool management staff when they came up with the original. So I sort of think that they probably put some thought into it.
Would you go over that one more time?
Hey, Larry, can you hang just a second? Adrian may have some more
Okay.
topical comments than us blindly firing in the dark here.
Well, let me just start off by saying that I have concern about making changes to the pool fees tonight because we didn't propose any changes when we published the notice of public hearing. This was analyzed, I want to say 2 years ago, and I would feel compelled to do a similar analysis again to come up with appropriate fees. I'm concerned that we would outprice our pool use and therefore drop the usership considerably, which then defeats the purpose. I think, obviously the basic question is, do we operate the pool or do we not? And I recognize the effort here is to cover the cost, but if we drop the usership so drastically that we're actually bringing in less with increased fees than we were otherwise, we still have to staff up. And, we're making a commitment to bring these kids on board for a summer job. And, we have to turn around and let them go. And so that doesn't feel good that we're going into this without a real, plan. We haven't really had any discussion with the school district about, that partnership. I did hold a stakeholder coordination meeting a couple of weeks back. School district was there, their superintendent's representative and their maintenance person, Rod and Susie, myself, the Otters president, and we did reach out to the water aerobics people, and that's when we learned that they were holding their program elsewhere for the time being. The Otters president I've talked with a couple times since that meeting, and it sounds like they have an interest in stepping up and partnering with us on some cost share or contribution towards some improvements. So if we, I don't know, I think all these things need to be considered. If we increase the fees, I don't think that that has an impact on the Otters, but if we, I just think that, you know, you have a half a dozen people here in the room that didn't even know coming into this that we might be proposing doubling the fees or something similar.
Well, we do have a public hearing that we are having a fee hearing, and I mean, I'm sure that we're outside the scope of what we're permitted to do. It might not feel quite as transparent by not reacting to a proposal.
I think that we probably have covered the Brown Act. You know, we have an agenda that describes a rate hearing, and the public is on notice that rates generally are going to be reviewed and set. I think Adrian's concern, though, is that there might be some pushback from persons who had no idea, as she says, that there'd be a sharp increase in the pool rates, and maybe it would be better just to take that at another meeting.
Well, that's my question, is that we are going through a rate study on septage fees, so there's certain, I would assume that we're planning on bringing some fees back for reconsideration. I think this, you know, is, but, you know, I would support looking at this as a proposed, you know, some sort of a proposed kind of a deal, and see if there's in general support to do that, and then have a more transparent rate hearing before, I guess it would be our second meeting in June. Is when
I think it would have to be that one.
Have to be that one. That's often when we've taken up the final rate adjustments. Ron?
I have two questions on this, or two comments. Number one is, before we, you know, adjust the rates and vote on it, as you, I think, alluded to, we need to know what effect that would have on the bottom line, and that would take time. But counter to that is the fact that you're going to have to hire staff very shortly, and I imagine we're running pretty close to that deadline. Which means, so will we have enough time to review this, to do what's necessary to review it, to pass a new rate fee for the swimming pool, and still be able to, in one case, hire the staff on time, or in the other case, let them know that they won't have a job this year, giving them enough time to find something else to do this summer?
I mean, I think what we're really looking for from the council tonight is whether they want to really are willing to operate the pool next year. I mean, we won't know if we doubled these fees tonight or tripled them or whatever you want to do to them. We will go ahead and hire staff and run the pool this summer. If nobody shows up, we lose $100,000 instead of $45,000. If everybody shows up, we lose $20,000 instead of $45,000. But there's nothing that we're going to learn between now and the 30th of June that's going to tell us whether a rate increase is going to work. I mean, it'll work, and that the rates will go up, but it won't tell you whether people are going to show up. I think it would conceivably, you could find out what KOA charges for day use, or, you know, what Aunt Martha charges to go swim in her pool in the backyard or something.
7 is $1 less than what we're.
Well, I would suggest this then as an alternative, is that probably we should have had this discussion, you know, 2 months ago on the pool because of our time constraints. So what I would suggest is that we suck it up and eat it for this year, open the pool at the same rates, and do a proper study so next year we'll know where we're at.
I I'm not sure we'll know any different, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think what was asked of us yesterday during the budget meeting was, does anyone want to close the pool? I mean, that's the decision point for staff or not. And there was not support among the council members to close it.
But there was,
So-
but there was only one person that supported opening the pool
As is.
as is.
Correct, I'm not interested in opening it, doing it as, and I appreciate the sentiment, Ron, but that's what I felt like I did last year.
Okay.
KOA is $7 a use, which I don't think that by doubling it, we will not have anyone come to the pool. I would imagine that we would have a reduction, but I don't think that it would be on the level of having to lay off. Like, I'm willing to suck up having our staffing so that they know what they're gonna do. And I would be fine to accept the fee schedule as is proposed and come back with an amendment. I certainly think it would be worthwhile to talk to pool staff. I certainly think it would be worthwhile to check in with the school district, put something in the paper, but I hope that it's put forward as, we don't wanna close the pool, but we're gonna try this other thing, you know, like as a, kind of like a community, like, so how much do you want the pool?
So are you
Kind of
thinking
thing.
that the possibility of maybe raising the fees in the middle of the season?
No, in the
Okay.
next.
Which we have actually done that
Yeah.
previously.
We've had many
It's
budget.
not ideal, but,
Yeah, right.
you know, the fee hearing that addresses all of the city's fees goes into effect July 1st, and this is the time of year, sometimes it's even the next meeting, the first meeting in June, where we take this up, and, you know, the
Sometimes the
pool
budget's
season would have
late, yeah.
been going for 2 weeks before the new fees go into effect, and so it's, you know, you're right, the
Get your
pool,
equipment in early.
Bruce,
well,
Yes, excuse me.
what if we take the fees, and what were they $4 last year?
yes.
Okay, so what if we raise the fees by $1? And see what effect the dollar has on the amount of people that come to the pool. I mean, we have the figures of how many people came to the pool, how many people did whatever that they were going to do. And that would be an indication of when you start raising the fees, what happens to the populace that goes to the pool. And
Larry,
maybe one is not enough, but I
Yeah,
mean, I'm just
well-
saying it's,
how would you, I'm a little bit concerned to Adrian's comments that this, and I'm inclined to support that. I'm just, would ask that, why don't we defer or adopt the fee schedule the way it is, announce another fee hearing for swimming pool only, and septage fees, because I think that's kind of a strange two things. We just hope that it isn't one and the same. That we're going to address
okay,
an adjustment to swimming pool fees in our second
Okay.
June meeting.
that's great.
Would you be okay with putting the proposal out there as double, and then if we get a full house saying,
Well, if you
then
can get,
reducing it?
I mean.
I'd rather
I think that's a good
err
idea.
on the higher side, and I do think that we need to approve the schedule tonight because of the convenience fee.
The rest of them.
Yeah, I think we need to adopt everything as is for
I think
business
what's wrong
operations.
with that is that people won't come because it won't dawn on them until they take their child to the pool. And instead of being $8 for the two children, it's gonna be, you know, a 20. And then they're gonna come in here and the fee schedule is gonna be over. I just don't think that sometimes people pay attention. As much as I wanna think that the people read the newspaper and all this kind of stuff, it doesn't enter into it.
That's true.
You know, I just feel that you ought to, don't double it, but, you know, let's let them know that, that the city can no longer afford this and do it at the fee schedule and have the Willits News and the Weekly, you know, put this in the paper for a week or two and see if we get any people that,
Let's see if they want to put it in the paper.
Yeah, well, I would like to move that we approve the fee schedule with the changes that were proposed on the convenience fee and a few corrections that were brought up, and that we schedule a renewed here, or rather, an additional hearing on the question of the pool fees for our meeting, our next meeting, and that we don't specify what that, what those rates are going to be, and we come up with an option A, B, and C, you know, that we put that out to the public well in advance of that, and the stakeholders, so that we can look at the impact that we can.
I'll tell you, it's a lot more fun to raise fees right now than it will be in 2 weeks.
I'm going to second her motion. And I know you haven't done the public yet.
Right. Okay, is there,
It's never
this
fun
is-
raising fees.
I know, it's a lot more fun to do it to an empty room.
And I don't,
Is there anybody in the public who'd like to address this evening?
Yeah, I would like to address it.
Sure, come on up to the podium.
So,
Just introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jamie Boudelaire, and I'm the Vice President of the Otters. And so, as far as when you say you're going to close the pool, does that mean it'd be closed for high school, it'd be closed for Otters, or you're going to close it for the summertime?
If the city were to close the pool, it would be for the period to the public for the time that we're responsible for it, yes.
So, no, we've not been approached by anybody. We pay whatever our fee is that we pay, and we don't know the, problems with the pool. And so we are very open, to giving back to that and working with you guys on, we're down there 5.5 months out of the year.
Sure.
So gross bathrooms and cracked concrete and whatever the issues are down there that need to be, a broken heater in the pool probably affect us more than
Sure.
anybody else. So we're definitely not against, I'm collecting sponsorships for our swim meet and stuff, and it would be nice for the public to see the money they're donating to me being turned around and, benefiting the community. So we're open to helping in any way that we can, or, sitting down with you guys and coming up with,
Great.
things
Well,
that
you're
need-
definitely a major stakeholder and user of the pool, and we
And
certainly
we're
will.
not recommending closing it.
When we're not recommending closing it. I think the pool is the city will operate it this year. We're going to have some more discussion about fees, but in this discussions that we have with the stakeholders, Otters are very much,
and the fees, I can say, just from people coming and paying for the Otters, the town's not rich. And the majority of the people that are coming down there aren't rich. So you may, by doubling it, which is kind of like a little, abrasive maybe to people, you might get half the people, so you're making the same amount of money.
We
You know what I
understand.
mean? Where if maybe you go in with a couple dollar increase, and I didn't know the pool was in the situation that it's in, but I've talked to people, and it's almost like oh, they always say they're gonna close the pool. They always say that. So I don't think that people necessarily understand that it's a real, true possibility, and that it's not a joke, and that they are in the situation where that may actually come to be.
well, and we also recognize that when we do, if we were to close the pool, it does not zero our costs to the pool. We still have,
The maintenance and everything.
we still have maintenance and chemical obligations and things that go on. We don't end up hiring 6 lifeguards, and we don't do a lot of things that are the major expense to the summer.
And for us, if you guys want to, we have talked about the bathroom situation, and in there, and that, some people came back with some ideas, and we have some ideas, and if we had a chance to get together and come up with a plan, and, you guys provide maybe the people to do it, and we pay for the materials, or whatever, come up with some kind of a system to improve things down there where it's not all on you. If we do, work together to pay for maintenance, work together to do those things. We didn't realize as our group that there were these issues like there are. So we're open to working with you guys and helping
Thank you very much for coming by. We will-
Yeah.
We'll take you up
to,
on that.
to
for
do
sure.
that, yeah, so
All right,
let's
thank
figure
you.
it out. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
All right.
Got a motion?
Then we got a motion and a second on fees. Do we have any other public that wishes to comment this evening? Seeing none, close the public hearing. Motion and a second to approve fees
As they are.
as presented to the council this evening, with the understanding that the fees on the pool may be readdressed at a future council meeting, which will be noticed. And then we probably are going to address septage fees as well at an upcoming meeting. So any further
And
discussion before
Adrian,
we
you'll
go?
reach out to all the stakeholders and make sure that they know what we're
Absolutely.
being considered?
Yeah, my motion was that we should bring it back at our next meeting, so that it's before all the summer fees.
At the next meeting, the June 10th or June 24th? I've heard two different things.
Okay, well, I was thinking June 10th, but if the.
When is the
work-
septage done?
Well, also, I'm not worried about it necessarily being the same agenda as the septage, but if the getting together with stakeholders takes a little longer, I'm okay with June 24th.
I think it needs to be June 24th because we have to publish a notice 10 days in advance
Okay.
in the newspaper for a public hearing.
Okay, well then, I'm fine.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes. Councilmember Stransky?
Yes.
Strong?
Yes.
Madrigal? Yes. Ornstein?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. Okay, thank you. Update on the emergency water project. Rod, do you have anything for us?
The big thing is the well is scheduled to be drilled starting June 15th, so it'll be done by June 25th, give or take.
Oh,
So, I mean, the
cool.
well itself will be done, we'll have to do some pump tests, et cetera. Following the construction, we've started the plumbing inside, and it's a matter of getting a couple more bodies over there, but right now, we're estimating about $412,000 to finish the project, and of which we expect to spend $300,000 by June 30th. And I believe, as we talked about yesterday, unless we got our 500,000 mixed up, that puts us at about 1.6 million for completion. So, I think it's 1.62, but.
Anybody have any questions?
When we drilled the pilot well, what we did is took samples from different stratus, different depths,
Correct.
and did we get those analyzed so that we know where to make the casing, the holes in the casing or perforations or whatever it is? So, and that's what we're gonna do with the stainless steel casing that we're gonna put in?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rod.
Thanks, Rod. We will move on to the consent calendar. We now have, it's just A and B. Somehow I put the, so item,
The others are reports.
the others are informational reports. So we have,
Question on the warrants.
Oh, aren't we on consent calendar first?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Or is
Yeah.
you're right, sorry. I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
two items. It's the minutes of May 13th and the RCHDC grant letter of support. Is there a second?
Yes.
We've got a second. Any public comment? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Strong?
Yes?
Madrigal? Yes. Ornstein?
Yes.
Mayor Burton?
Yes. So you had a warrant question?
So this is just sort of a comment of wonder. We pay the state of California $19,000 for having a dam? Pardon my French, but these are dam fees. So that's not testing or making sure it's safe, this is just because we have one?
Holds water.
It's a good business to be in, I guess, the state of California. I was just surprised at the size of that.
You know, start a state.
Well, I like having the dam.
All right, right to
And they're not
appeal.
worried about raising fees.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Using our dam.
Good to be king. Persons who are dissatisfied with the decision, the city council may have a right to review of that decision by a court. I probably read this too much because they seem to do it all the time. If I didn't remind them, maybe they wouldn't bother. So, the city has adopted 1094.6 Code of Civil Procedure, which generally limits 90 days, the time within decisions, city boards and agencies may be judicially challenged. City manager reports and recommendations.
Well, the first thing I wanted to do was just to have a brief recap on the budget workshop from
Good.
yesterday. So let's see, we spent the full day, 9 o'clock in the morning till 5:30 or so, reviewing the draft budget. Just for everyone's clarification, the budget will come back for another council review on June 10th and then slated for adoption on June 24th. That will likely be with the knowledge that if we've just begun labor negotiations, and so the recommendation is likely to be to adopt the budget on June 24th with the knowledge that we may be bringing back a budget amendment request after negotiations have concluded. And we've done that in years past. That's not uncommon. There were some parking lot items, as we call them, from yesterday's session that Susie, as our finance director, is working up some numbers to provide an updated budget. But as far as what was presented yesterday, we are sitting at a $79,546 projected deficit for the fiscal year 2015-16. And that certainly is an improvement over years past.
Just the general fund.
In the general fund, yes. Of course, you know, the goal is to have a balanced budget, and so we're continuing to find some ways to achieve that. But this deficit also assumed the operation of the pool this year, which is $45,000 of that deficit. And that was just a conversation that, as I stated yesterday, I felt it was important for the full council to have.
And maybe mention what happened you were expecting a deficit from last year.
Right. Last year, the adopted budget had a projected deficit of $138,000, and we ended up with, let me find it here, $270,000, 790 gain, and that was largely due to positions that had not been filled.
Not actually a gain, it's a surplus. The gain was 400,000.
True. One of the things that we've done in this draft budget is to apply a 5% reduction pretty much across the board in the general fund, and that was to achieve the $79,000 deficit rather than a greater one. And this was a different approach than what we've done in years past, and this essentially put it back in departments' hands to apply those reductions where they best saw fit. And I've talked with the department heads, and they have shared what their strategies are, so when we come back with the final draft of the budget for adoption, those changes will be reflected.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports?
Yes, I wanted to mention.
Can I mention one other thing, or can I have you mention one other thing? Just that it was a infrastructure heavy, you know, the deficit in the entire budget was an infrastructure heavy. We've been doing just a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, you know, the majority of our shortfall is actually in projects that are being completed. I think it's important for the.
Let's see, we have pretty much finished up the grant application for the Rails with Trails grant, or project rather. We had hoped to have that out the door today, but it looks like it'll be tomorrow. And that's been a very intensive process, much more so than the one last fall, but it's for a lot more money as well. It's $3 million. And this is to build a trail along the railroad right-of-way from Commercial Street all the way down to the new hospital site.
And it's on, you might mention, it was news to me here a while back, not recently, but the trail is proposed for the east side of the railroad track.
That's correct, because there's simply isn't enough room on the west side to accommodate future improvements there. So we're excited about it. Kathy Hopper has been our grant writer. She's been tremendous. Rod and his staff have put a tremendous amount of effort into this, and we've had people in the community taking pictures, collecting bike and pedestrian data. Holly had coined some captions for some of our photos. MCOG staff have been great. So in a future meeting, probably the June 10th, we'd like to have everybody here to recognize them for that. As far as when we will hear on whether this was awarded or not, that won't be until December, I believe.
Does the application include or not the western spur going?
It does not.
Does not.
Yeah. We just couldn't accommodate that in such a short time frame.
My understanding was it was going to go from the high school, but I read that it was from Commercial Street now. Is that Commercial Street?
It's Commercial Street now, yeah.
How come that was?
That had to do with the active line.
The spur that.
The spur.
Turns in where they switch around.
It goes down by house.
Down
There's
behind the
issues
school
crossing it.
farm and whatever.
So, that one is getting zipped up.
High-speed rail there, you might get.
Sorry.
Sucked up.
Cynical.
And then lastly, I wanted to mention, and Susie will provide more in-depth information on this, but we just this afternoon completed what was expected to be a 2-week audit by the State Controller's Office on 3 of our restricted funds, and the gas tax, the 1B money, and Transportation Control Relief Fund, something like that.
It's another gas.
Right. We were notified, I don't know, a month or maybe 2 back that this would occur. It was bad timing with, budget prep. But, and it's a pretty daunting process. I mean, they came in and audited 12 years worth of records, and even though they were looking at 3 specific funds, if they find anything else in their review that sort of raises a red flag, they have an obligation to follow up on it. And so we had an entrance interview when the auditor first showed up last week, and then this afternoon was the exit interview or conference. We are ending up with a clean audit, I'm happy to report, which I think is pretty amazing considering the time span that they were auditing. Obviously, they're auditing the work of our predecessors, but we were the ones that were here having to deal with this and be responsive to what they were looking for and explain any questions that they had. So I just want to commend Susie in particular for her work, because it took up a lot of her time over the last couple of weeks, and Rod was very much a part of this because basically all of these things fall within the public works realm. So
Got a crash course in
we did.
gas taxes.
And I'm frankly, I'm glad that this occurred now. I mean, I'm glad it didn't occur last year when they were brand new. I'm glad it's occurring now rather than further down the road because we learn from it.
Yeah, we threw him into the Brook Trails.
Anyway, good job.
Yeah, and I went to that exit interview today, and he was spoke very complimentary of our staff.
Good.
So,
Excellent.
and those guys aren't always the nicest guys in the world, so, and gals. But anyway, I wanted to be there and hear it firsthand, so. So we will go up to department recommendations. City Clerk, anything for the good of the order? Finance anymore? You need to,
I think we're good now.
okay. You're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
You could have a
Looking
weekend.
good. Public safety, Jerry, you got anything for us today?
Just real quick, it's the season again, and we're starting to get calls from property owners regarding transients, and the stores are calling, et cetera, disturbances, those sort of things. So I do encourage the public to call. We will come and respond and take whatever appropriate action is necessary within the confines of the law. So.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
Larry?
Jerry, I want to say thank you very much for the officers that were walking the streets last week, and it's very nice to see them, and I've got some good compliments from them.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you very
Thank
much for that.
And I wanted to say that Tom Allman had written a letter to the editor about the sheriff's department and basically saying that we're really happy to have such community-minded public safety people in our county and don't ever foresee having some of the problems that other jurisdictions are having around the country. And I wanted to pass that on to your department as well. I think it's really wonderful to know that you treat our public with such respect and just the integrity of our people in the police force.
Thank you, and I just want to commend Sergeant Anderson. He's the one that's been, as he puts it, getting the guys to walk around downtown, and so on day shift.
Very good.
He's been the impetus for that, so.
And I got contact, this is separate, I actually did mention to John when he was here talking about the mission statement that I saw the guys over at the farmer's market, which was really
Okay.
great, you know, walking the farmer's market beat. But I was contacted earlier today about someone concerned about, there was a water truck filling up by the hospital, and I checked and it was legitimate usage, but there's that concern out there about water. So apparently we have a hotline. So 459-7166, if people in the community are concerned, if they see a water truck at a hydrant that they don't think is supposed to be there, they could call that and
And I guess what I would echo is that may come into City Hall, but after hours, I would recommend they call our business line at 459-6122 and get a hold of dispatch. That way, some folks
check
will.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, some folks will text me, some folks will try and email us, and it's kind of hard to catch them after the fact, so it's.
Yeah, this person actually took a photo of it and texted it to me.
Yeah, so.
That was good.
Yeah,
That's great.
like, I'm seeing it again, you know, so.
And I think I've been talking with our city attorney about maybe some other tactics we can take.
Yeah,
So.
and I think it was for construction for the medical office buildings, but it's nice to know that we have citizens out there that are keeping an eye on things also.
Right, moving right along, community development, I don't think we have anything. So the Dell Avenue project.
Yeah.
Before we get into the specifics, I guess this is pretty specific though. Our cost estimate has increased to $160,000 for the project because of
The pipe?
yeah, because of the pipe, because of the ductile iron pipe requirement.
That's from 138, right?
From 138 to 160. So we'll have some additional handling requirements for the spoils. It'll require some additional labor on our part, but the testing came back, soils testing came back positive for total petroleum hydrocarbons related to diesel and motor oil. So we're going to try to do maybe some additional tests so we don't have to use all ductile iron. If we can limit the ductile iron requirement, because I think the gaskets alone are a couple $1,000s for that.
So you have to do
Just
that
special
kind of pipe
gaskets.
because of what's in the soil.
Well, it's still debatable.
Right.
So do you think that was from home heating oils that were used along there, or the county may have just oiled that road at times in the past with old motor oil? It has not been a really, there's not a gas station, there was never a gas station on Dell Avenue.
No. So yeah, that's why we're going to have some more conversations with the Division of Drinking Water before we buy the material. But we'll have to take a closer look at where we took our samples also. And it seemed like pretty recent the county paved the ditch on the north side, kind of filled that ditch in. Used to be a ditch along the north side. So we need to just see where we're sampling and what.
Yeah.
The MCS contract doesn't alter, right? The estimate is up on our part, but not on the MCS contract, is that
It's
right?
primarily materials, yeah. The MCS contract doesn't change.
Well, I would be interested to move that we authorize the city manager to execute a time and materials contract with MCS. for an estimated cost of $43,250.
Second that.
If I could interject something here. It's permissible for us to sole source the contract for amounts under $45,000. This just comes in under that amount. The city has adopted the Uniform Construction Cost Accounting Act that allows us to do that. Contracts between $45,000 and $175,000 require informal bidding procedures. Over $175,000, formal bidding procedures. So this is just under the threshold that allows for sole sourcing.
What a coincidence. I have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this? Roll call vote, please.
Yes, Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Strong?
Yes.
Madable?
Yes.
Ornstein?
Yeah.
Mayor Burton?
Yes, and we're after this project because the county is going to resurface Della Avenue on a fairly short notice. They told us they were after it. We want to get our water line replaced. We have a very depreciated water line in that street. And
Yeah, this is, it's 20 years past its design life.
so that's what's gotten this project to the front of the line.
Della Avenue is the dividing point between the county and the city, correct?
No, it's actually a little further back towards town.
It's what?
It-
No,
yeah,
Runs right along there.
North side is in the city limits, south side is out. Out of the
Okay,
city
what
limits.
what I'm saying is, they are gonna do the whole street though.
They're gonna do the whole street. Actually, the boundary line, I believe, is right up to the edge of Blosser, like on the back side of those lots. All those lots on the north side are actually in the county.
So
Yeah.
north side is.
So that's why we,
out.
Is that right?
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, so when you Google Earth it and you see
Oh, it's right there.
the big green.
I lost a bet on that years ago.
I thought it was Della Avenue, but it's not.
No.
It's not,
it's
it's,
not.
it's on the north side, so that's why.
That's why they
That's
filled
on
the
The
ditch
backside
on
of
the north
Blosser
side,
Lane
'cause
School.
That trail that runs the
Right,
backside.
yeah.
Oh, is that right? Is that
That's-
right?
In the city, the
Oh.
properties are all.
Okay.
But we do have
I didn't
out
realize
of
that.
area,
Water
we have some
Services, yeah.
out there.
and the county is charging us $3,000 for an encroachment permit. So, they better not encroach with their traffic control when they do the paving, or we'll have to charge them.
And I did see that they, that we are being sort of incentivized because of their speed on paving this. But they actually say that they will not permit.
They sent us a
They
letter
won't give
saying
us a
they
permit to
won't
cut it
give
up.
us an encroachment permit after they paved it. And when
But
we
it's
told them
like
we
there's
needed to
a
do
leak out
this,
there.
we needed to do this line, it was like, well, if you can get it done by May, the end of May.
Yeah.
And I said, well,
And how long have they been sitting on this project?
They were gonna do it last year. They had it all marked and
Is that
everything
all?
else.
Okay.
we got a letter in the fall saying that they were going to pave it. But it wasn't mentioned at the summer utility coordination meeting we had.
Came in emergency
So-
all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, it essentially is. You have a line that you could have complete failure
I mean,
at any
the
time.
paving became an emergency all of a sudden.
Oh,
It is gonna be good.
well,
I mean, it's pretty bad.
Okay,
Even when they just
we
dug it
voted,
up.
didn't we vote? This
Yes,
thing's
we
done?
did.
Thank you.
And thanks for doing that in an affordable way.
Yes.
So we'll move on to committee reports. MCOG?
MCOG is going to meet on Monday, and Holly is going to take my place on Monday.
Gave
Good.
me about this much material.
And at that meeting on Monday is when they're approving the overall work program for MCOG that
Right.
includes our grant application for the downtown streets and alleyways.
Oh, okay. So you know how to vote?
I do.
Okay.
Is there, let me know if there's anything else I need to look.
I was
I thought-
actually planning to go to that meeting,
Okay.
just,
LAFCO?
Meets on Monday.
MTA?
We meet tomorrow down in Ukiah at 1:30.
All right. MSWA?
We're gonna meet sometime, I guess, but I don't know when.
Okay. EDFC?
Met 2 weeks ago, and lots going on. At some point, it would be great to have John do a little presentation to the council, because they've been developing a lot of public outreach materials. It might be, just a 5 or 10 minute.
We'd be pleased to see you here.
Especially if they're doing stuff in the Willits area.
The League of California Cities?
The league met, this was the quarterly meeting in Ferndale, and we received a presentation on the east-west land bridge, which is the idea of doing rail from Humboldt Bay to the Sacramento Valley. It's the only deep harbor port without a rail connection, and they've lost big automotive contracts and things like that, where they can actually see how it went to Oregon and all the money they're making in Oregon. Currently, it's 10%, less than 10% of the capacity is being used. This plan, they're trying to get money for a feasibility study. The plan does not involve us. It's going like 299, or there's a few different possibilities, but it's all going across the mountains that way. 299 is being upgraded over the next few years to be able to handle big rigs, and so they're seeing that as sort of a intermediate measure, because right now, because of labor disputes in the Port of Oakland, the delays are getting so bad that people are actually shipping containers out of Texas, from the Sacramento Valley to Texas, so it's like, it's right over the hill, relatively. So that was, there's a lot of cynicism in the northern region of the League of California. All of our cities have been here sometime, so, but it was still an interesting presentation. And then the legislative committee approved a bunch of measures. They're supporting a community revitalization authority, income tax credits, a Building Homes and Jobs Act. There's a transportation funding, SB 16, deferred maintenance plan. They're supporting that if the division has requested an amendment saying that cities under 30,000 receive 100% of the revenue back. And also they're supporting a motor vehicle fuel tax rate adjustment, and they're opposing AB 34, which is a medical cannabis regulation that would basically put the enforcement under ABC, medical testing under public health, and the rest of it with food and ag. They're opposing that.
Under what reason?
There's a few different ones going through. I actually didn't make the legislative meeting, but I'll make the next one. I didn't realize that I was the person for that. AB 718 is a local government powers thing that they're imposing, and a local services contract, fire protection services, they're opposing that. That was trying to make it so that if you provide fire services outside of the area, that you have to get lots of written documents in place, so they're too much of a pain. Anyway, it was very interesting, and Ferndale is a nice place to visit.
It is. Cute little spot.
It is.
It's got a great store with hand-forged stuff.
Yeah, the blacksmith
Yeah,
store is pretty,
cool store.
the
Our-
antique register.
That was
That was
legal.
legal.
I don't think we have anything under water and wastewater systems. Revite in,
Didn't we?
and finance, I think we've heard from that, and nothing on these ad hoc committees this go-around that I'm aware of.
What about J with the Main Street improvement?
The group has not met since the last council
I
meeting.
know, but there's a little thing on there that the city manager's wanting to move it to rewrite it.
Oh, I didn't read that.
So we have, at the last meeting, we eliminated a couple of the ad hoc committee meetings, and I know that there is some interest by some council members in forming some new ones, but to the extent that we can, I'd like to put new matters into the various committees that they fit into, that are standing committees, because we essentially haven't been able to schedule standing committees because we've had so many ad hoc meetings, and it just seems to be flip-flopped from what it should be.
Well, maybe we should
I'll-
put this on a future matter of
It's my call.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
Because what Adrian's mentioning as far as other ones, I would love to see a groundwater, something ad hoc to talk about future water planning, although maybe that could be under water and wastewater.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay,
There's another one.
duly noted. We'll
Thank you.
figure
I
something
would
out.
just point-
So you report back to us on that?
Yeah, sure will.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other committee reports?
Oh, recreation district.
Any council member reports and recommendations? Any good and welfare?
Yes, and actually I do have a council member report. I mentioned this to Rod the other day, and I don't know if it's our jurisdiction or not, but the shrubs on Railroad Avenue and East Valley, blackberries, basically, are getting so big that it's becoming a safety hazard, trying to pull out right there.
It's spring.
It is spring.
Get Caltrans.
Yeah, I don't know, as I said, I don't know whose area that is. And also, good and welfare, the Carnegie Library is turning 100 this year. It was built 100 years ago. Some of the folks at Willits TV are wanting to do something, you know, they're gonna either try to get a banner together or some sort of celebration. 4th of July, I know people are always hanging out there. It might be neat to put a little happy birthday sign on the plaque or something, because the plaque talks about how it was built for $1,000 back in the day. Beautiful building.
Just one other item, and that is June 18th is the next Regional Water Quality Control Board meeting, and some of us are hoping that the issue of the blackberries and the use of herbicides in the mitigation areas and the Lake Valley will be hopefully on their agenda for review of the mitigation plans. That would be June 18th, Thursday, down in Santa Rosa.
Okay, well, my good and welfare is that car show last weekend, done by the chamber, I thought was one of the best ever.
Very good.
Really.
Who won the arm wrestling?
No, I don't know. That Kim.
Who won the
Chin-
women's?
Kim Chin
Really?
won that one. I saw that, but I wasn't paying any attention to one of the guys. So anyway, that was a fun event and a nice Memorial Day weekend. It was one of the first Memorial Day weekends that I remember where the weather kept getting better instead of getting worse. So, anyway, closed session, we have 3 items under closed session tonight. Keep the code versus the City of Willits and Reach Air Medical Services. Continues conference with labor negotiators with the employee organizations, and the annual performance evaluation, second meeting of this, evaluating the city manager. So any decisions made out of closed session will be reported in here immediately thereafter. I doubt there will be any final decisions made on these items tonight. You're welcome to stick around. At that point, we will adjourn to closed session.